So it has come to this. I was expecting, but at the same time, kind of dreading this movie. Today's topic is gonna be about Animal Farm, the 2026 six movie made by Angel Studios, which this is a studio that I'm not exactly kind of like very familiar. I only see it kind of like in names of probably a lot of religious stuff. That sort of like for example, there's this David movie, this Jesus Christ movie. I am not very familiar with it. The only movie that I saw that was produced by them, yeah, it was years ago. I saw that movie called Sound of Freedom. I didn't make a vlog out of it, but I because I saw that movie while I was in my home country visiting my parents, and I decided I watched that movie with my sister and her husband, and well, I will say that I didn't like that movie much. I understand that it had its intentions, yeah, but it's pretty hard for me to like a movie when it exaggerates a little bit too much on the whole premise, and it all ends with a very fictitious, self-indulgent Rambo movie. That was I'm not yeah, it turns into a Rambo movie in the last 25 minutes. That part really took me out of it on how on then trying to be kind of like serious on the topic, but trust me that when it's about biopics, I already said that the more closer it is to what's real, this is where it hooks me. I can accept some other stuff, but some creative liberties, but not that time. And so this is the closest thing I have with Angel Studios. But in the case of Animal Farm, which is based on the famous George Orwell book. I did read the book when I was in high school. I think that many people did that, myself included. It was part of it, and I do remember that I was I was hooked into it. I did read kind of like two or three times. I do admit that when things pique my interest, I do. I do become a reader. I do get some book and read it when it piques my interest. Um, I did also read 1984, of course. Even though I didn't have that on my curriculum. That when I read it for myself. And well, you can tell that George Orwell, as a writer, he was pretty much kind of like this smart, prophetic kind of author. I think I say prophetic because I think the guy was very critical on many political and social and economic stuff, to the point that in a kind of in a scary way he kind of prophesied what the world was gonna be. 1984 is one of those examples, and in the case of Animal Farm, he was mostly making a fable that is that pretty much it was an analogy to the Russian Revolution that happened. He just picked up some of the historical things that happened during that time period when Russia wanted to overthrow their Tsar, and they decided to try the new socialist government under the rule of Joseph Stalin, and of course, things went downhill because well, there was it has a lot of elements. It also had, the it makes the analogies to Vladimir Lenin, who was kind of like the philosophical inspiration to overthrow the Tsar. There was also Stalin's rival Trotsky. It's a big story, and Animal Farm is almost like a satire to that. It's of course that instead of using real people, it puts them in a kind of like a more simple setting. In this case, farm animals who overthrow their overthrow the farmer who he was pretty much a drunk has been and all this stuff. And of course the pigs begin to learn to read and write there because they become smart. And there was this political headbutting between a pig named Napoleon and another pig named Snowball. And of course it ends up with Snowball being exiled and Napoleon taking charges. And well, a lot of things that it really looked like that they let's say that Animal Farm had some promise. That was the name of that's actually the name of the farm, what they call after they overthrow the farmer. Things look promising, but then when the Napoleon pig took over, things went downhill, and the pigs become corrupted with power, and of course the commodities of humans, to the point that they begin to act like themselves. That's basically the synopsis of the whole thing, and it is an interesting story. And of course that is basically me giving a synopsis of the book. Which trust me, I'll get by a movie in a minute. I just because I do have kind of like quite a little bit of a history with the story itself. So yes, not only I read the book, but I also saw the animated movie that I don't remember what year came out, but believe it or not, that movie it was actually funded by the CIA. Believe it or not, and that one I actually like too, because is for the most part faithful to the book, even though it took a little bit of a creative liberty by prophesizing a little bit the ending by making it, by kind of giving it a little bit of conclusion, because the book kind of ended in a kind of like a sour, somber note. I mean, the whole thing is grim. The whole thing is grim and but a little bit also down to earth. And the movie itself, it kept that tone, but also gave kind of like the a little bit kind of like the ending that also prophesied what happened to the Socialist Party of Joseph Stalin. So I highly recommend you to see to if you're curious enough, but just be aware, because this was funded by the CIA. And then of course there's also the TV movie, which that one I also saw, but that one I like it a little bit less, I'll say. And the problem is that this one was a little bit watered down. Like, for example, the whole both the book and the other movie, they don't sugarcoat the whole thing. Humans die and all this stuff, but now let's not have that for the TV movie, which is live action, and they also use puppetry for some of the animals, and well, is more or less faithful, but this one takes a little bit more of creative liberty. For starters, they make it a little bit kind of like in modern times, and also they made one of the incidental characters of the book, which is one of the dogs, become a main character, and they kind of make kind of like this this dog character are being sad that Napoleon himself trained her children in order to become his royal bodyguards. Which that actually happens in the book, but they didn't center, on the mom being kind of witnessing and being the narrator of all this, and and this one is also a little bit faithful to the source material, but not exactly by a long shot. And this one also kind of wanted to end in a bittersweet but yet happy note, I'll say, in which, it ends up that eventually it falls down and then a new family move in, which are nicer and all this stuff. So that's as far as I remember the TNT movie version. I don't remember much of it. It's been a long time since I saw it, but I do remember that I wasn't very keen of the how can I say the whole watered down thing. Although they don't sugarcoat it too much, because there is still kind of like a scene in which they hang the chickens. And yeah, there's animal execution on both the book and even the other animated movie. So this gonna give you, this is another example of the tone that this movie has. And now here we are. The 2026 movie, Angel Studios, directed by Gollum himself, Andy Serkis. It also took a lot of celebrities. Let's see the roll call here in IMDb. It got Seth Rogen, Gaten Matarazzo, Steve Buscemi, Glenn Close, Laverne Fox, Kieran Culkin, aka Wallace, Scott Pilgrim's awesome gay best roommate, Woody Harrelson, Jim Parsons, Andy Serkis himself, Kathleen Turner, Peter Brook, etc. Yeah, it's basically they pick up some Hollywood people to get involved into it. You know how they really want to do that in animation nowadays. Yeah, in which they think star power. You need star power. It gives you the ability to voice act. And right in the get go, the trailers didn't show promise, because it really showcased that it was very, very put to the lower bar denominator to make it appealing for children. It tries to be hip and all this stuff, and a lot of people, they were like, I don't know if this is gonna work. And as for me, I was with them. And worse, because the movie gave me a flashback of that awful Lorax movie. It had that vibe. It had the vibe of the Lorax, in which because the Lorax, it has kind of also the same problem. It came from a book that have a great environmental message, and it's simple enough, it's humble enough. Then there's a Chuck Jones short, which is also short and humble. And then we have that awful, cynical movie that stars Danny DeVito, in which it's all trying to be hip with the modern audience, or the younger children generation, to make it loud, bombastic, with modern music, and of course it also have commercials and all this stuff, that it really felt like a cynical cash grab. So this is the vibe that I had with Animal Farm. But either way, since I'm kind of like the guy who, I can go to see a bad movie and live to tell the tale, because it can't be worse than that. And it was. This movie, personally, I do consider it one of the worst I have seen this year. And I've seen many good movies this year that I need to fill out my quota for bad movies. But this one definitely is going to be on the top of one of the worst movies I've seen this year. How bad it is, again, it's the Lorax bad. It's the Lorax bad. And I don't know why people they turned that movie also kind of like a cult following, because here's the thing. I've been hearing that some people are kind of a little bit forgiving this movie because, well, they find it hilarious, like almost like War of the World hilarious. I don't agree with that. I tried to watch this movie, and as a guy who really loves animation, I found more cringe than anything. I really didn't get into the movie humor, especially when it tries very hard to be that humorous, and it wasn't. It was. And considering when it tries to modernize itself, it shoots itself a lot in the foot, because it tries to modernize a little bit too much, to the point that it wanted to make kind of like to make it for this current era, and so instead of being kind of like an anti socialist criticism like the original story was, this one, it wanted to go for the typical anti-capitalism, and I mean, it's very, at this point, it's very tiring to see stories about that corporate is bad, capitalism is bad, and all this stuff, and honestly, I kind of wish that there was someone who could make a movie that to see at least the good of corporate and capitalism, like early South Park did, and the episode with the underpan gnomes, not everything is kind of like shiny or something like that. I mean, I can understand kind of like the satire of it. I mean, I played a video game called Escape from Ever After, which is it makes this one is more clever on criticizing capitalism and give it kind of like a quirky humor. So if you want to see a current criticism to capitalism, but in a good, funny, and even charming way, play that game called, again, Escape from Ever After. But in the case of this movie, it just goes off with the. It goes kind of like in this preachy, unfunny, and kind of like unpleasant movie that is just noise, I'll say, and it's all drowned because of the noise of trying to look cool, and it's not even, again, it's not even kind of like so bad it's good. I did, because at least in War of the World, I can tell at least in War of the Worlds that it was terrible, although it tried to make its own thing. It deviates totally from the source material, but makes its own thing. But it failed. I kind of see how it fails, and I can see, of course, the cynicism with being a plug-in to Amazon. Although in that way, I can tell. Honestly, I can tell. I personally can see more humor on that compared to animation, because in animation, you design the cartoon to take the whole thing more seriously, instead of watching someone fake or making a fool of themselves. It's almost like the opposite that I have. Remember that I say that I have a big problem when in live action when people act like cartoons, in which I find it embarrassing. Kind of is the opposite for me in animation, in which even when I want to take it too seriously, I kind of take it a little bit more seriously in animation, and I can tell if they're doing it on purpose or something like that, because animation has you need to plan more on an animation on how you're gonna make the cinematography that compared to this. So yeah, this was terrible. So I think I already talked a little bit much about it, and well, to put it bluntly about this movie, and I will tell a lot because this is gonna be one of my vlogs that I'm gonna have no. I'm gonna spoil you a lot of it because this movie is not worth it, and I have to, let it out. I mean, this is what I do with this. It's just me just complaining and sharing my thoughts, and uh, my 2 cents just in case. For starters, this movie doesn't have old manner. The pig that is the representation of Vladimir Lenin and the one that inspires the revolution. No, it doesn't have that. It just jump starts with the pigs. Being sent to the laughter house. I'm sorry, the slaughterhouse, because apparently they have a truck that covers the letter S, and the pigs that can read it say, "Oh, laughter house, we're going on vacation," and then, "Oh, it's slaughterhouse," and then they say, "Oh, well, we have to fight for freedom," and then we have the whole opening that kind of feels like a spy movie, in which we see the name of the actors and all this stuff, and we also present the main character. And who's the main character? It's not a gender swap Snowball. It's not Napoleon, and it's not Boxer the horse or Benjamin the donkey, or there isn't even the dogs or anything. No, this one our humble narrator is a pig. No, not even the propaganda pig named Squealer. No, this time the narrator is a pig named Lucky, which is I don't remember if he was a kind of like a pig that was just name dropped on the book or something like that, but they make this Lucky character who is gonna be the main character, the pig who knows how to read and all this stuff, and he's besties with Boxer, Boxer the horse. The pig is the one voiced by Captain Matarazzo. I don't know what he did also. And yeah, they have the revolution, and they expel the farmer who is pretty much a caricature. He basically kind of looked like if Wreck-It Ralph became a farmer and he grew a beard. That's the thing. And all this is been watched by a drone from that belongs to Mrs. Pilkington. Pilkington was a shady farmer that begins to make deals with the pigs in the original story. In this one, she's kind of like this mega corporate woman who pretty much, she's very rich. And she's evil because she rides a Tesla, but she kind of looks like if what you do is you cross over John Cusack with Ellen DeGeneres, and she has the kind of like this big mansion. Oh, but here's the thing: the drone is named Moses. I'm not kidding. Moses, the name of a crow in the original book. This is a crow that was kind of like an allegory to religion, because it is a crow that began to tell the animals about this wonderful place called Sugar Candy Mountain, in which he say that, oh, when we die, we go to this place full of where you can be happy and eat, sugar candy mountain and all this stuff. So basically, they did read the book and they just do whatever with it, and so of course then they build the animals begin to write the rules. The rules like four legs good, two leg bad. They didn't specify, like for example in the other one, anyone who has wings or hooves are friends. They didn't put that because they didn't put that. They should not wear clothes. They should not drink alcohol, but because the movie wanted to be cute or for the kiddies, instead they call it naughty juice. You know that naughty juice kind of sounds a little bit more risque than alcohol. You should just name it alcohol. Of course, they should not kill each other. They should not sleep in sheets. And with the last one, all animals are equal. So they made that. Of course, the barn, the house becomes kind of like a museum and all this stuff. But it all goes kind of like very fast, and and of course we got Napoleon, voiced by Laverne Cox. No. Napoleon is Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen. How do I describe this? He just means Seth Rogen, and if you hated Seth Rogen's mannerism, this movie it amplifies it, to the max. It's kind of like 3 or 4 times where you're gonna hear his trademark, and the whole movie tries to make him say that, hey, he's the funny pig. Oh, he's like, yeah, I'm funny, and guess what? He's not. He's not even funny. Especially when one of his jokes is like, oh, here comes a fart! Yeah. That's the kind of humor that you're gonna get. And of course, he basically befriends the lucky pig because he saved his life during the revolt. And then, of course, Snowball, the pig that represents Trotsky, and this time voiced by Laverne Fox, is the one you say, hey, I'm a good leader, even though the movie only shows her leading for 5 minutes or something. And of course, just like in the book, she decides that in order to make electricity, they're gonna need a windmill. Oh, I'm sorry, not a windmill. Like in the book, they need a water mill. And of course, they have the rivalry in which is pretty much childish because the Seth Rogen pig Napoleon, he goes like, oh, she's boring, and all the animals, they just buy it in seconds. Especially because, they have the running gag that the sheep repeat everything that Napoleon says. Just like in the book. Although they beat them with a joke that there is one sheep that has his wool sheared by comedic saints. And he's always saying that, hey, I don't think so. And it's almost like the gun that sings outside of the flock. So that was kind of like the joke that they milked during the whole movie, that all the sheep repeat what Napoleon said, but he's like, no, I don't think so, or something like that. They repeat the kind of like a joke. You know what? I got something that they miss. You know what they have missed? They could have missed that this sheep eventually he's gonna paint himself with black ink, and then you'll get a black sheep. yeah, I'm not exactly, I'm not exactly, the best making jokes and all that stuff. I'm just doing this spontaneously. And yes, it ends up with Snowball being exile, and then of course follows a little bit, like the story, that Napoleon and the other pigs take charge, and and of course the animals begin to suffer because, well, they waste all the resources, they go all the parties. Also, this movie is all saying that, okay, we have all to share and all this stuff because, well, socialism is basically that technically, from what I can understand, they take all the government takes the resources, and it's spread it out evenly to everyone and all this stuff, no matter what. I'm not very good at that. I'm just saying it. Uh, of course the food runs out, and then apparently out of nowhere they decided that they get visited by the farm's landlord, who's kind of like this wormy guy with spectacles, who kind of looks like if Ned Flanders was a loser or something like that. He's like, and I don't know why they kick him out and the pig, and he say, hey, look at this, is money. Oh, we call it magic paper. With this magic paper, you can keep the farm and you can buy things. And then they open a farmer's market. They open a farmer's market in which I don't know why even the animals, they go with it. I mean, even because remember the chicken execution that I told you. The biggest reason is that that happened. It's because basically the chickens treat the eggs as their children, and during that episode is that the pigs said that they need the eggs to sell to the human, and the chickens doesn't like that, and so they revolt by breaking the eggs, because they don't want their children to be in the hands of human and all this stuff. And so they did establish that that the animals, they are really wants to be by themselves, not depending on humans. Except the pigs, of course. The pigs are the ones that get corrupted and all that. But at this instant, of course, in the movie, they have this farmer market in which it was pretty successful for one day have the money enough to fill a bucket. And of course, that catches the attention of the Mrs. Pilkington, and yeah, she's evil because she's riding a Tesla. I'm not gonna go into that because this is not my place and for that commentary. I'm just talking about the movie itself. So yeah, so with the leftover of the movie, they decided to go to. For a shopping montage, they go to this really mall that is cold. It's really cold with the whole shiny metal and all this stuff, and which it also showcased that our character Lucky, they shoehorn in a romance in which he's in love with another piglet named Puff, or I think it was called, which she's kind of like the twin sister of another pig who is a little bit more vain and all this and all of that. And yeah, they shoehorn in a romance, by the number of romance that it's basically an 80s type romance story that that is shoehorned in Animal Farm, because apparently that's what George Orwell wanted. So of course the pigs are laughed at. They buy all those things out there, and I don't know how they get enough money to buy like 20 television sets and all that stuff that they can't even plug in. So they made the watermill and all this stuff, and well, they have the watermill thanks because of Boxer, the horse. Uh, okay, this is where I go to tell you that it this movie is awful in a lot of things, and even the dialogue is very awful. I will say that even all the characters are unlikable. Even our protagonist Lucky, the main character, because here's the problem that I have with Lucky, and not just the shoehorn or romance, is that the problem with Lucky is that he's basically almost not a character. He's just a character that he's just there, just saying that's not right. I don't feel like it because it's not right. That's pretty much all his dialogue in the whole movie. He's kind of like they wanted to make kind of like the goody two shoes guy, but he's just there and just to spout out lines that is just basically, but that's not right. That's the problem with him. And again, the whole remember that I said that the movie tries to be funny, but all this the humor is just basically just quick talk and then making some puns about it, and it's so unfunny. And the movie thinks that Seth Rogen pig is funny, but he isn't. He's actually kind of like disgusting, and none of the character feel like character. Even the kind of like the squealer character, who's supposed to be like the minister of propaganda kind of pig, he's kind of in the background. Because apparently I thought that Lucky was gonna be the squealer, but no. He's too goody two shoes to the point that then Squealer becomes that propaganda kind of like warmy kind of character in almost at the half of the movie, and also and of course the less I talked about Leopard Cox Snowball, because she wasn't even technically a character in it, kind of like that. And what else there is? Andy Serkis himself, he voices kind of like a rooster, but he's just kind of he's just kind of like he's just kind of like there to spout out some lines and nothing more, nothing less. The Miss Pilkington character, I'll say that she was voiced by Glenn Close. Benjamin is played by Kathleen Turner. I don't know. And none of those characters feel like legit characters. If there's a silver lining about this movie, the only actor who actually gives a more likable and honest performance is Woody Harrelson as Boxer. He's basically kind of like the best character. Even in the other incarnations, Boxer was actually kind of like the most sympathetic of all the characters. He's the working horse who he's stubborn. He doesn't know much. He doesn't know much. Not because he's idiotic. It's just that he wants to fulfill his purpose. And this is why he's always has his two mottos, which is work hard and Napoleon is always right, which is both encouraging, but at the same time is also sad. That this character is really sad. Of course, the movie kind of wants to make him that he's learning to read thanks to being taught by Lucky, and they wanted to play this ha 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 joke because he was writing E = MC², and he doesn't understand it. Yeah, that's the kind of humor that you get. So yeah, how about this? The pig. After the pigs having the party, the pigs think that they have to impress the humans. It's because they've been laughed at, so they decide to stand on 2 feet, which that was supposed to be kept on the final part of the story. But now they wanted to say that, hey, we're gonna make tumble and all that stuff, because this is what they always think that is the humor for your kids. They just stand up and fall and pratfalls, in which honestly I find them more funnier in America's Funniest Home Videos, but not exactly when in animated movies when this is kind of like an excess, when they exceedingly do that. And well, they stand on 2 feet. They begin to start wear clothes, and of course, they begin to break the rules. And of course, Lucky always saying that's not right. They're breaking the rules, but he can't. But of course, Napoleon's like, hey, you can't back down. Pigs has to stick with other pigs or something like that. You're not a loser, are you? You know, like the slimy devil that tells you, hey, don't be like them. And then, of course, for some reason, not for some reason, it's because part of the book, Napoleon wants more, magic paper, and he makes deals with Mrs. Pilkington, and of course it's because they want to sell the animals for their labor, and then of course they see the horrors that they do on that company, in which they treat very poorly the animals and all that stuff. They make them work hard and all that. And of course they keep throwing, parties and all this stuff. And this is where I get to how excessive and loud the music is, because it's too modern that it's always, all these techno, those hip hop rap parties that you get from those annoying parties. Almost, it kind of reminds me of Project X in a way. I mean, even with a car going into the water. Yeah, Napoleon buys a car just like you see in the trailer. In which, how the hell did he? And I don't know how the hell did they think that having this small farm being profitable with the, it's a typical corporate thing that, I don't want small business, I want it, or something like that. So it makes all these shady things. There's also the almost breakup romance, in which Lucky finds out that the girl that he likes, she's like, no, I don't want to be like them. I'm going with the other animals, and of course the animals feel like they're being starved because, that's what evil corporation does and all this stuff. They ignore the little ones, and then of course they decided that instead of having a water mill for business, let's increase it by making a dam. I don't know how the hell they think a dam will do, especially in a place that is kind of like a little farm. I mean, for that you need kind of like a giant river or something like that, and yeah, they began to construct the dam in record time because Miss Pilkington has her minions of people. Of all these math guys, although they make a dam that is bigger than the Hoover Dam. And then, of course, comes the moment in which one of the humans get trapped on one of the machineries, and Boxer decides to help. But of course, while rescuing the human, with Lucky the only one trying to help, and then the other animals trying to help, Boxer breaks his leg, and then a helicopter comes, pick him up, and just like in the story, he's sent to the glue factory. And then Lucky goes to see Napoleon to tell him that they took Boxer to the glue factory to stop him, but he's like, well, his servant's purpose or something like that. I gotta admit that Squealer kind of make a quip by saying that, that he was actually the glue of the farm. Not gonna lie, that was the only pun that made me giggle at least. And then of course, Lucky begins to see Napoleon having this kind of like this nightmare fuel transformation of Napoleon's pig face turning into human, and the other ones turning into human, and Mrs. Pilkington also laughing and turning herself into a pig, and of course comes the famous line, which is the end of the book, and of course the end of and of course the end of the sea of all the Animal Farm stuff. The famous line that says that the animals they look at the pigs, then look at the humans, then to humans to the pig, then men to pig and pig, but they can distinguish they can no longer distinguish which is which. And they say that line in the narration literally. And let me tell you, I don't think I gotta rewatch the animated version, but I'm pretty sure that this one didn't need the narration. But it also made it into nightmare fuel, and it was just an imagery that is also nightmare fuel. And of course, you think that this is where the movie should have ended, because you reach the ending of the movie, but no, it doesn't end there. And you know what? And of course, I had to and I had to sit through all these bad jokes, bad implementation of the CGI. The animation, I'll say that it was pretty subpar. I'll say not the greatest. Not the greatest. It's just pretty much kiddie stuff that they wanted to do. The music that I already told you that it has pretty much a lot of rap music or bastardization of classical music, or they even have an old McDonald's rap rendition that it was pretty bad. Yeah, and also the bad jokes in which there was a time in which Pilkington decides to name Napoleon, and I kid you not, she starts to call him Napopo. Napopo. Hey, Napopo. Come here, Napopo. Oh, dear. So, yeah. The movie doesn't end there. It decides to go into a third act in which Lucky finally decides to walk on his four legs and all this stuff. And, of course, they find he pretty much find out, look at all the animals, and they say that, yeah, freedom this is not freedom. He broke the rules and all this stuff. Again, I told you that Lucky character, he's just there to say just that's so wrong, that's wrong, or something like that. And he didn't show any leadership skill in anything. He was just kind of like there. And then they decided that, hey, he's gonna make this inauguration to that damn. So we're gonna humiliate him, and then of course they have kind of like this they tried to make kind of like this spy montage in which they tried to sabotage Napoleon, in which there was kind of like no plan. Apparently they just wanted him to showcase, being humiliated in video, while Napoleon's making his big speech and begins to scream, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, or something like that, with a standing ovation of all these masked guys, these masked guys that all these guys, they kind of look like they might be working for Montgomery Burns power plant. And there was fireworks and all that stuff, and then that dam get destroyed, and there is this huge flood, and probably thousands of people died in that, because the whole flood feels like the whole flood feels like if Hurricane Katrina happened. It floods everything, and then of course we get that final confrontation between Napoleon and Lucky, because he's like, wait for me, I gotta confront him, which it didn't need it to, but he decided to do it nevertheless. And of course, Napoleon died, that Napoleon died. Probably millions of people died by the flood because it really looked like they flood everything except the except the barn, except the barn, and then he's like, they're like, you know what? We should all be kind to each other. We have to share with each other and all this stuff. Yeah, you don't have a plan of how to make how economics work, especially when you're trying to burn something. Okay, I mean, yeah, it's nice to say share and all this stuff. You're just giving you're just giving Care Bears mentality now. When you think about it, it's not exactly that there's kind of like this specific plan of how you're gonna keep that barn arose. And again, pretty sure that after you destroy that dam, probably thousands of those innocent, naive workers probably died. Probably some other animals probably they have been drowned by this. Which again, that kind of makes me wonder how did they get that so much water into? If I don't think that they established that they were near a kind of like this river that again a dam that is kind of like the size of the Hoover Dam. And yeah, it had that ending that goes nowhere, and then we get the credit scene in which it's basically this drawing of Napoleon being oppressive and all this stuff. But then you won't believe what happened. It has that timer, a timer that goes and says, "Wait, we have something important, and we have to wait for a minute." We go through the credits. The timer keeps ticking, and when the timer reaches 0, we get a still shot of a question that says, "How did we do our farming?" And there are 2 QR codes. One QR code is for when you want to answer, you did good, you did good. And the other one is like, "No more, please." I'm not kidding. It's kind of like the same. It's the kind of same strategy that Sound of Freedom did, in which at the post-credit scene, in which the actor goes saying, "Hey, give us money" and all this stuff. I didn't bother because this movie doesn't deserve to have my QR on my phone and all this stuff. But I did but I did listen to other people. I did listen to other people and told me what it is. And many people will go, if you go to the QR code and to put that "no more, please," it leads you to the website of them saying, "You're wrong. Yeah, you are wrong." And Napoleon says, "Hey, we need more of your magic paper." And of course, since I sat through the whole credits scene, there was even this message saying that we gotta fight against oppression. BS. What oppression? I don't feel any oppression. The only oppression that I had, and I did this to myself, is by watching that garbage of a movie that it's just soulless. It just, it was just, that was demented. At least I could say that probably it could serve a kind of like a laugh on how inept this movie is. But at the end of the day, it's not like I had a miserable time. I'll give it that. I've seen worse movies there is, but this one because of the kind of like the naive intentions that it had. This is why I consider this kind of like one of the worst movies I have seen in animation. This is par of scummy. just like the Lorax. And Animal Farm is one book that it is one of those touchy books that you had to do it right to take it seriously, because to be fair, the whole concept of the themes of the book, and even the CIA movie, they a lot of the themes that it has, it does transcend even to this day. It's kind of like a timeless tale of caution and all this stuff. But and the goals of this movie to call itself a cautionary tale, but doesn't feel cautionary when you instead of solidifying your themes, you just went to the basic anti-corporate message that well, George Orwell, yeah, he was also a little bit of an anti-capitalist. He was almost anti-everything. It's kind of like it's kind of like touchy and all this stuff. And the book and even the animated movie, I don't think that it had kind of like an intention of being how can I say, targeted for younger audiences. Which this is something that it makes me think that when you take a subject that was made for adults and you lower the bar enough to make it for younger audiences, this is where it's almost like kind of like dropping your IQs, and it makes you feel dumber compared instead of feeling smarter. And you know what? High school children, they can understand reading the book, and I think that they can understand even the animated version with the CIA. It's the one that was funded by the CIA, the animated version. And I would probably say maybe you could get that same feeling also with the TV movie. And honestly, I think that I'm gonna owe that TV movie a little bit of an apology after watching that one. So no, I don't recommend it, except that probably you could rent it at least to have some laugh and see the damage of it, but not to take it too seriously, because yeah, this is this because, well, we got three movies good, one movie bad. So yeah, what can I say? Not all movies are equal, but some movies are equal than other. I don't know. I try to end up with this, and I'm not pretty good at it.